rally, this movement, this growing nationwide consciousness raising is the result of the deliberate, stealthy stealing of our democracy. And to demand justice, we are here to demand an investigation.
Well, I think historically what's important today at Stephanie Tubbs-Jones, Representative Stephanie Tubbs-Jones agreed from Ohio to challenge the Ohio electors, and that's significant. And I believe if she does that, that Senator Barbara Boxer will step forward. She has said that if anyone from Ohio challenges, she would seriously consider. So I think that's very important. I think also what you're seeing there today looks like the beginning of a movement to end this secret privatization of voting, where these corporations control our votes, and you've got 50 different state systems, and within the states like Ohio, every county, 88 different counties have their own system. So I think what you saw today was the birth of a movement, and we do actually have the poll logs, which show that 221 people less signed in than the actual votes assigned. Okay, if you need anything, give me a call. And I thought, well, we're going to have a public hearing. And so I've never conducted a public hearing before. I hadn't been a lawyer a year for that matter. But I said, we're going to have a public hearing. Didn't think anyone would show up to any great extent. We only had, by the time we got to church, it was about Tuesday. Didn't have time to promote it. So on that Saturday, as we're driving to the event, I'm thinking, okay, if we get 50 people, that's a pretty good turnout. We counted over 500 that had come in throughout the day. Standing room only, so 250 to 300 people. A lot of the growing independent video makers, filmmakers, public access, Pacifica, broadcasted. So, as people were listening to this on radio, and we got over 60 people signed sworn affidavits, or about 34 people in sworn testimony with a court reporter. So we had planned one for 2 days later, thinking maybe nobody would show up. We wanted it at the Board of Election, but it ended up at the courthouse. And we think, well, who's going to show up now? I mean, we've exhausted the amount of people. It seats 250 people. We had standing room only again. John Conyers' office was contacted sort of initially because we were thinking about filing complaints with the Civil Rights Commission. So he was a few senators we were going to talk to see how to proceed. And then it sort of got out of control for us. And Representative Conyers contacted us. One of his staff members, Perry Applebaum, called us, and we started getting all these calls from the Judiciary Committee. And they said, well, haven't you seen our website? And I said, no. And they go, well, we've been posting your stuff, freepress.org. I'm thinking, well, this is interesting. Our stuff's being, of course, we were one of the few newspapers in the world, particularly in the United States, that was covering it. None of the mainstream were. A lot of the web blogs were covering it, and perhaps, but mainly it was the web. So the Columbus Free Press, we put out an issue, We Do Not Concede, laying out this case of what happened on Election Day. But we posted it online at freepress.org, and we find now it's linked to the U.S. Congress and the ranking member, the distinguished Representative John Conyers. And they also said, can we have your testimony? I saw this as a good sign. So we got the testimony. At the time, we didn't have any money, right? I had pledged money out of my own pocket. So we were about $3,000 in debt through the Free Press to gather this information. But then we got pledges of money. Air America picked it up and began to raise money for us. And I'm thinking, so instead of thinking, well, it was a worthy cause, it cost $3,000, but I've documented this for history, suddenly we could hire lawyers. Suddenly we could do, through the Free Press, election protection, do massive investigations, journalistic investigations. So all of that, and then we sent them the transcripts electronically. They liked what they saw, and they said, can you come in for a briefing of the minority, the Democrats, on the Judiciary Committee and some other congressmen who want to hear more. So, in about a week's time, we went from being an obscure, small, freepress.org group of activists in Columbus, Ohio, to testifying, live on C-SPAN and having people, from all over the nation hear and see the evidence that we had.
So what do you say to people that say, just get over it, will you? Get over it.
Well, again, what are they asking us to get over? Democracy? Are they asking us to allow people to wait in line up to 7 hours in Columbus, up to 12 hours at Kenyon College? Are they asking us for Jim Crow treatment where blacks have to wait 3 hours on average to vote and white people get to vote in 30 minutes? What is it exactly I'm supposed to get over? Watching handicapped people wheel away because there were no ramps for them? Watching a woman on chemotherapy faint after waiting 2.5 hours and not be able to vote, and watch her, walk off with her cane, with a pale look on her face? I'm supposed to get over that? I don't think so. What they need to get over is their contempt for democracy. What they need to get over is the thuggery which intimidates American citizens not to vote. What they need to get over is a mindset that would easily be manipulated by theo-fascists and militarists and corporatists. I'm not getting over it, but as I've said before, we're not going to get over it, but we shall overcome. And again, I'm inspired by the words of Lincoln, that government of the people, by the people, and for the people shall not perish from this earth. I'm not getting over it till every American has the same voting right throughout the nation. We vote the same way on the same machines, and it's transparent. It's not done by secret, private companies that are the major donors of the president, because that's the only way I believe George Bush has won in the year 2000 and 2004. His private friends who secretly count our votes. That's not democracy. That's a sham. We're on Tremont Street in Upper Arlington. Across the way, Coswall Manor, the home of Walden Odell, the former CEO of Diebold. He now has resigned under heavy scrutinizing from his own shareholders as to whether or not the financial reportings of Diebold were legitimate. He's the man secretly counting the votes with proprietary software, and nobody knows what's in that software.
Keep hope alive! Keep hope alive! A little light will do you. We are that little light. This year, 40 years ago, with the moral leadership of Dr. King and rigorous demonstrations, and the legislative leadership of Lyndon Johnson, we got the right to vote in August of 1965. But lest we forget, an independent, progressive political action went outside of the system, went on down to Selma, Alabama. In many ways as remote as Warren County in Ohio, or Butler, Claremont. And in that remote place, it was the blood of the martyrs, the blood of Viola Luizzo, an Italian-American mother from Detroit, the blood of Swan Goodman and Chain, the two Jews and the black, the blood of Jimmy Lee Jackson, the horses kicking, the dogs biting on Edmund Pettus Bridge that Sunday afternoon. The blood spill that Sunday changed the climate for America, changed the debate. Lyndon Johnson wrote over, he used ink, to write over blood, the right to vote. It was the remnant that gained the right to vote in 65. The remnant must protect the right to vote in year 2005 and beyond. In many ways today, real leadership is tested. Dr. King would often say leadership is tested, Brother Moss, by how they act vote or behave in times of adversity. At best today, Senator Boxer is going to contest standing with her will be Senator Chris Dodd. And Hillary Clinton. And Senator Reid. And Barack Obama. We are winning already. We are winning already.
All great movements start in the Bay Area. And the whole image of, again, the teach-in movement's coming out, and we really see this as a model for the rest of the country. You seem, in many ways, not to have been caught up in the political socialization that assumes that the son of a CIA director and people close to him who have been overthrowing governments and democracies throughout the third world for long periods of time would never, ever, ever think of using any dirty tactics in the United States. This is nothing but high-tech, 21st century Karl Rove Jim Crow. It is a deliberate tactic to disenfranchise American citizens. And what they want us to do is look the other way. But what I said on Election Day that was attacked as conspiracy theorists is now admitted to by the Washington Post and the New York Times. Unless we get this right on voting, nothing else matters. These neocon plans to violate the law and use the U.S. military to invade other countries, to plot aggressive war, which is illegal under the UN Charter, which is illegal under the principles of Nuremberg. That's what this is about. And the reality is the facts are on our side. They stole those elections. The exit polls were in fact right. They've now privatized the vote. They are secretly counting the vote with their secret software. And what we're saying is we want full transparency, and we will stand with Lincoln in the battle we won in the Civil War, that government of the people, by the people, and for the people shall not perish. And it begins here today. The new voting rights movement in the United States, all power to the people. Thank you.